we've had some summer cooling centers open this summer to just on holidays when libraries and other public buildings are closed. Um, so I'm grateful for community partners that are stepping up and making some of that happen, and doing some good planning, I think, for the future in that area. So I will popcorn it to Chris Carter.
Morning. Um, let's see. I'm into my third month now with MARC, which feels somehow like it's been 6 months and also 6 days. Um, Professionally, I am excited to be really getting the ball going on our regional housing needs assessment. I feel like it's a great assignment to get started. It's going to have a great impact on our organization. And it aligns really well with what I was learning at UMKC. And then personally, I finally completed school and also moved over into Raytown. So I'm excited to wake up and not have boxes to pack or unpack and maybe go for a couple bike rides finally and start really enjoying summer. So no solid plans, but I'm going to relax. So let's see. Have we heard from Lauren yet? Sorry, I've been taking attendance.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I had to check and make sure I wasn't the only Lauren on the call, but I'm Lauren Harness with Kansas City Design Center, and we are a community design center that works mainly with Kansas State architecture planning and design. And we're kicking off a architecture-focused academic year this fall. So we have two housing research fellows. So we have some tentative projects for them to work on, but they're both planning students. So we might have to follow up with you, Hannah, or others about what that looks like. And I'm excited to play tennis. I just played tennis for the first time in a long time last night. It was very fun. So, and I'll pass it to Carson. She's also with KCDC. So, good to see you all.
I'm Carson Ludwig. I'm the program coordinator at KCDC, so I work with Lauren. So I have the same professional plans as her upcoming. Uh, Personal win recently, I just got back from a vacation in California, so it was exciting. Oh, I'll pass it to Stephen Collins.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Stephen Collins, team lead of the Home Preservation Program at Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity here. Um, Professionally, our affiliate is, continues to build houses. That's always very exciting. So we've just gone through the family selection process. So we've now met the families who will be purchasing the houses from us. It's very small, it's not transformative broadly, but that's always really exciting for us. Also, I'm lucky enough to be working with Jackson County Public Health's INCO Lab, um, where we are convening a meeting of small developers here at our offices in Independence on July the 20th to get input and feedback from small developers who are working in Eastern Jackson County with an eye to formulate some kind of policy proposals which will address potentially some of the challenges of building infill housing in Eastern Jackson County. So we're excited for that. Also, I'll just say to Chris, as a person from Raytown, love to hear people move into Raytown. So welcome to Eastern Jackson County. If you need any, pointers, any direction, happy to serve in that way. Yeah, looking at the invite list here, I don't believe we've heard from Theodis Watson. Perhaps we can kick it to them.
Good morning. Thank you, Stephen. Theodis Watson, Busey Bank here. Give you a little bit of update. Busey is a little fairly new in the market, about a year in, but we're excited about having a mortgage officer, Trish Holmes, here in Kansas City. And she provided me a little update. So we are members of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago that allows us to provide access to capital for qualified borrowers with a grant up to $8,000 for down payment, clothing costs. We also have a community home loan portfolio program that helps assist with low to moderate income borrowers if they can't qualify going to the secondary market, and also allows us to participate with the I-10 borrowers. So we're excited about that. And we also just recently started a partnership with Habitat for Humanity KC to utilize some grant funding to be able to help some of the borrowers there, which we're excited about that partnership. So very excited about continuing to expand. We are also looking to do some affordable housing, light tech projects on the commercial side, which I am participating in. Just looking to work with some good folks who know what they're doing so we can continue to support that community. Personal win, just got back from vacation, and so I'm going through emails, but I'm also excited about getting back to it. So I'll pass it on to Miss Nona.
Good morning, everyone. Personal wins is I'm actually closing on a house hopefully at the end of the month. So I guess I'll be actually guess I'll be formally, Kansas City resident since it's in Missouri, and not say that I'm just here. And then professionally, HAKC is doing a lot. So we actually was approved for a $10 million line of credit. So we're utilizing that in reference to some affordable housing purchases across the city. So that's all I can talk about right now. Next month, it should be a lot more exciting. So that's all we have. I'm not sure who hasn't gone. Did Mr. Gray go?
No, thank
Okay,
you
Mr.
for the
Gray.
handout. Good morning, everyone. In the professional, I got opportunity to attend a Native American conference in Alaska. I do work regionally and nationally here in Native Works in Native communities. So as far as personal, Alaska was one of the few states left on my bucket list. So it's a personal win for me. And who's left? Carly?
Actually, we'll let Aaron go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Good morning, Erin Oleg, City of Overland Park. We've had some discussions. I think professionally, my story this morning is about the Unified Development Ordinance update, which is not super exciting, but is very impactful for our community and updating our zoning. So our planning staff visited with city council, all of them, a couple of weeks ago, and went through an exercise where we're trying to get a sense of how we're feeling about a variety of housing types. And we kind of did an exercise that mirrored red card, green card, the whole World Cup stuff, yellow card. And how do you feel about townhomes? How do you feel about duplexes? How do you feel about smaller apartments? How do you feel about ADUs? And I felt like we had a really great discussion. The purpose of that was just to get a sense from our policymakers on how they feel about things before staff start moving forward into the details of our zoning code. So we had great conversation and very interactive activity as well. And we're going to continue to do that about once a month to help refine some things. So we're feeling good about that, at least on the staff side. And personally, I also just got back from vacation, and it was a lot cooler up in northern Minnesota along Lake Superior. And I wish I was there right now today because it's super hot here, but that's okay. That's how it is being from Kansas. I'll pass off to Alan. He just joined us.
Sorry running late. I was in a meeting with our city attorney on some stuff. So just a quick update here on our last subcommittee meeting. We talked about extended timelines in order to monitor the changes over time, because with this action plan, it's not something that's going to be, it's going to have to be something that we have to kind of look at and follow along. It's going to change over time, different timelines. One of the things we need to deal with is who's responsible, is it a contractor? Is it the subcommittee? Is it RHP? So some of the things we work on. We do have a framework spreadsheet. We're going to tweak it and add a couple tabs to it, but we're going to start focusing on the goal one, which is network and process, getting that information in there so that we have something to start showing where things are and some of the timelines on all that stuff. Our overall goal is to be able to present it at the annual convening, and I believe it's April of 27. We're looking at doing it on it. So we did review the RHP goals and strategies, the dashboard from Visible Network Lab. So we're still kind of moving forward with that. Christine did suggest hosting the network opportunities by sector. So that's some of the things we're working on when we do our framework. So in short, that's kind of where we're at based on our last meeting and what we're looking to come to forward with. Hope to have some more information the next meeting.
Alan, who are you? You're supposed to say who you are and who you represent.
Oh, well, I missed the beginning. I'm sorry. Probably came in the middle of everything. Alan Napoli, City of Gladstone Community Development Administrator.
Okay, and so I think, Amanda, have you gone yet?
I haven't. And Rachel, I don't even know how to answer that question, so don't ask me, okay? Hi, Amanda Wilson, Senior Program Officer with LISC. Let's see, I think a win for us coming up is we are set to and planning for the launch of the KC Regional Housing Fund. TBD when a public launch will be, but at least the paper launch and forming the entity and all of the legal background stuff will be September 30th. So that is super exciting, and you all will hear about the public one soon. And yeah, we're getting that ready and going. So that's big. And then I think other thing is we were accepted to present at the Kansas Housing Conference on the Regional Housing Fund and Regional Housing Partnership. So hopefully that'll be a good session. We're starting to plan that soon. So yeah, and then I'm actually around for this summer and not traveling. I did my traveling in May, so I'm excited to be in the hot Midwest summer and doing all the summer things here. So, hi everyone.
All right, that is great. Let's see, we have our MARC folks. So we have Ashley and Cy and Tiffany. Do you guys want to do a quick introduction? We'll have Hannah and Carly do theirs when they do their section of information, I think.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Hand, Director of Local Government Services with the Mid-America Regional Council. WIN is the safety and security at World Cup has been just an incredible experience of regional collaboration and coordination. I got to spend July 4th at the RCC, which was the Regional Coordinating Center, and just amazing to see how this region works together to pull this off behind the scenes and keep things safe. So very excited for it to hopefully come to a strong, positive end at the end of this week. So, and then on a personal note, I too came back from vacation. So I still feel like I'm weeding through those emails, but it was worth it.
Yeah, good morning. I also came back from vacation, so I'll go next. And I was also in California for part of it. So wish the weather was as nice here as it was there. Cy Spleak, I'm a transportation planner here at MARC, working closely with our housing department. And I'm actually going to share an opportunity for all of you. Our Planning Sustainable Places program right now is soliciting proposals for local planning projects that look at the kind of coordination of transportation, housing, land use, and stuff. And we had 28 projects submitted from cities. And currently all of those projects are available for public comment and review. So I'm dropping the link to that in the chat. So feel free to go through for the projects that represent your communities, take a look and leave a comment if you're so inclined to do so. So thanks.
Hi, I'll go next. I am Tiffany Cole, Public Affairs Coordinator here at MARC, and very similar to Chris, because we started within, I think, a week of each other. I'm also at my 3 months, and I very much second what Chris said about it feels like 6 months and 6 days at the same time. I have no idea how that happens here at MARC, but it's a good thing. I do like it here. And I have not come back from a vacation, but next week I will be gone for a few days to be in Chicago. So I will go on a vacation then. I'm excited for that. And just this, I did not know this much about housing before I joined MARC, so it's been very illuminating for me just personally to learn about it, especially as someone who is supporting two low to no income people. So all these updates are very exciting and personally powerful for me. And Rachel, I am not. I should, though. I should go to the Obama Center. I do know that that just happened, so I will look into that.
Is that everyone? Brennan, did you go? Trying to go through my list.
He did.
Oh yeah, you went first.
I went second.
Oh, okay, perfect. Excellent. Okay, we've got everyone here. Excellent. Thank you guys for the great introductions and the updates. If you've looked at the agenda, you kind of notice that we are doing a little bit different setup. This is kind of what I'm a little bit more familiar with from my council meetings, is we're going to do information updates first, and then we'll do discussion at the end of the meeting and then wrap up at the very end. So our information item updates next will be from our backbone team, Hannah Mitchell and Carly Turner. So they're going to kind of give us an update about what has been going on since the last time we met and get us all on the same page from initiatives and events that have been happening. And I will let them take it away.
Thank you, Holly. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Got some things for you guys to look at. And do an introduction. I'm Hannah Mitchell. I'm our housing program manager at MARC and work with Carly on the RHP. And you at least probably recognize my name from all the emails that I send you guys. So, okay, so lots of exciting things that we have been up to since our last meeting. So I think the week after our last coordinating council meeting, we had our housing policy series, our second event, the second quarter. This, as a reminder, excuse me, as a reminder, this series is just an opportunity. It's a quarterly series that we're putting on as a part of our policy and process focus with the RHP, just to start having some conversations and workshops around different innovative policy solutions or strategies that we can implement at the local level. And so we've been really fortunate to have some really great local, regional, and just folks from across the country come and speak about different topics. And this last one we did in May was focused on prefab and modular homes and what that looks like. We had three, I'm going to share the pictures of our wonderful speakers. We had two coordinating council members or organizations represented. So Megan from Build Wyco and Fran from Fran Sutton Homes. We also had Doug Cowan from Community Services League out in Independence, and Michael Gibson from K-State Architecture, and he also does private practice architecture, has worked with Mattie Road Center to build some prefab homes, modular homes in Kansas City. And so we had just an incredible panel that gave great presentations about how they're using prefab or modular building techniques in Kansas City, and talked about what that looks like. And they were, what I really appreciated about this group is they were very open and honest about where this works. And I'm sure if you talk to Brennan, he would say the same thing from doing this over at Build Wyco. Very honest about where modular and prefab works, where it doesn't work, what benefits it does bring, and where we still have opportunities to grow and kind of figure out some of the policy and process improvements around that. So it was a really great conversation. We have our next one coming up. Like I said, we do these quarterly, so we'll have it coming up in the next couple months, and I'll talk about that here in just a bit. But also want to say with that, I think every one of these people, again, we're either a part of the coordinating council or we're referred to us by someone in the coordinating council. So I just so appreciate you guys and your expertise with connecting us with folks who really make these events special. So just want to throw that out there and acknowledge that, because I really really appreciate you all. With that, we're also doing some RHP, just general kind of website branding updates. And so we have been working behind the scenes on some updates to the RHP website. Now, if you go look at it today, you're not going to see a whole lot of those there, because we're also working with a consultant to redo our branding in general. So we're not going to make a ton of changes to the website the way that it looks, before we right before we get new branding. But we have made a couple of updates, a lot of things behind the scenes, and a lot of planning for some structural things of the architecture of the website, how it's going to look, so that we can really roll that out later this year once we get our branding updated. I want to show you one particular update that we've made that will be, I think, useful to all of you. Are you guys seeing my screen with the website? Okay, great. So if you go over to the events tab, we have, of course, a list of upcoming events that you can look at. We have also added these event summaries. So if you click on that, you can find, you can find recordings and materials from our previous events that we have hosted. One thing with the policy series, the workforce forum that we've done so far, they've both been in-person events. And so we have recorded them and have posted the recordings here. We've posted a lot of the other materials. Our PA team, Tiffany, does an incredible job of writing up these really great summaries after the event, because we don't want them to just live in that moment. We want folks to be able to have access to the resources afterwards as well. And so, for example, if you come, you can look. So far, we have our launch event back in September. We have the policy series from February, we have the workforce forum from May, and we have the planners roundtable policy workshop that we did in May. We will be adding that prefab and modular policy series. We've had some technical issues we've had to work through, but we'll be adding that very soon. If you go in and click on one of these, depending on the event, they're going to have different content posted, but generally you will find a summary of what happened. Again, so grateful to Tiffany and our public affairs team for covering our events and allowing us to focus on the event in the moment, and then they do a great write-up of it afterwards. And then we'll have, if we have an event recording, we'll put that here. So you can actually, this one, you can watch the whole event if you weren't able to make it, or if somebody said something and you can't remember who it was or what was asked specifically, this is a great way to just go back and take a look at that. And then you can look at the photo gallery if you all want to use any of the photos or anything. Wanted to share that with you all. We will have more, of course, website updates coming soon. That is one that I wanted to point out for now. Like I said, we're working with a consultant on just helping our branding better align and reflect the work that we do with the RHP, and making sure that the way that we're presenting the RHP to others is reflective of what we want them to understand about the work that we're doing. So I'm really excited. We just kicked that off. We had our kickoff meeting this past week, and we have a really great Rachel Krause, who used to actually work at MARC, but she does independent consulting now, is who we're working with on that. And she's been just phenomenal already. So really, and I'm sure she will have some feedback to collect and gather from you all going forward too, as we work through this process. So be on the lookout for more information coming on that. And then housing narrative labs. I know a lot of you are really excited about. I know I'm really excited about this work moving forward. Wanted to update you all that we are moving forward with phase one, which is the stakeholder listening session. So that is underway, and those will be happening in August and September. So all of you or your organizations are on those lists. This is going to be the first step in the narrative change work and research that we're doing. So this is gathering information from our stakeholders. So the folks that are in this work, every day who are kind of boots on the ground and who are really going to be assets as we disseminate our narrative change work kind of at the end of the process. So the first phase is to meet with those folks to get a feel so that Housing Narrative Labs can have an idea of kind of what's going on. And then they'll do the focus groups with just the general community members. And we have some targeted focus groups as well. But that is underway. Just wanted to give you guys an update. We are definitely working on that behind the scenes. And a lot of exciting things are happening there.
That is great. Yeah, I'm excited about that website. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And feel free to jump in, anybody. I am sharing my screen, so I can't really see you guys. So just jump in and let me know. So I think the last thing, so our next upcoming event that we have is going to be that policy series that I was talking about earlier, the Housing Policy Innovation Series, our Q3 convening. I had sent out a call request to you all for topics, and I was just so grateful for the feedback that you all gave. A lot of really great ideas, and several of them kind of centered around this idea of missing middle housing. And I know several of you talked about that even in your updates today. So it's exciting to hear that that work is going on across the region, but specifically talking about missing middle. So thinking about townhomes, duplexes, smaller footprint, single family units, things like that. How do we get that built in Kansas City and kind of from a zoning lens? So that's the general approach that we're taking. I've got several feelers out. And we're making progress on putting that list of speakers together. So if you have somebody who you think would be a great speaker to add, please let me know, and we'll see if we can get that worked out. It's going to be, we're still trying to finalize the date and the location, but it will be in August or early September this year. And if you guys have location ideas, as always, we are open to that. We try to move these around the region, but still keep them centrally located so that it's more accessible for everyone. We've had our last two in at Habitat KC and KCMO, and then at the KCK Public Schools central office. So we're going to look to probably continue spreading these events out across the region. So open to ideas. If anybody has any, you can just shoot me an email or shoot me a message on here. And just some other really quick updates. Our next coordinating council meeting is going to be September 10th. It will be at the new MARC offices when we will be fully moved in by then and ready to go. So really excited to share that new space with you all. They're just 2 blocks away from our current office, and I'll send all the information for you all for how to access those. Just wanted to remind you that we are going to be focusing on reviewing our current coordinating council membership. So just taking another look, okay, we're almost a year into the coordinating council. What kind of representation do we have on the council? And we'll start looking at gaps and potential new member nominations for where now that we've done this for a year, we can start looking forward, and we'll take those new member nominations and we will vote on them in November. So be thinking about that. If you have somebody that you think would be a good coordinating council member, just be thinking of that over the next couple of months and know that that's coming. As Chris talked about, we are working on the regional housing needs assessment, just letting you guys know that is in progress. And then we are also working on our Q2 newsletter, which will be coming out soon. Carly, any updates or anything I missed that you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it.
Great. Holly, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, sounds great. That is really exciting stuff. I'm glad that we have added this back this to our agenda so that you can tell us all the stuff that's been going on and the events. I think this is a really great update. Thank you. So in part of our information gathering, we are going to be adding a subcommittee and the work group updates, which I think is going to be great to hear about what they have been up to. So we're going to just have the chairs kind of tell us what they have done and what their meeting has looked like since we last met. And we'll have Alan talk about the action plan subcommittee. I think you might have already talked a little bit about it, but if you wanted to review how that went and any updates that you guys talked about at that last action plan subcommittee, Alan?
So yeah, we can do a better update. Should have more information by the next meeting.
Okay. And you guys, when did you guys meet?
I'm sorry.
When did you guys meet?
We are meeting, Carly, what was the schedule? I can't remember.
Uh, so I think the date of the last meeting was on the 24th, June 24th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're going to meet again in person following the September coordinating council meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of on an every other month schedule a little bit?
Kind of, we may do
Yes.
some stuff in between too. It's just
Okay.
kind of been crazy. I've been
Yeah.
got a lot of stuff going on. Every time I turn around, something new happens.
It's
Oh,
been a busy summer.
It has been.
all right. Well, I look forward to hearing about how the next one goes. And then Rachel and Amber, do you want to talk about the annual convening planning subcommittee updates?
I don't see Amber, so I'll go ahead and share our update.
Okay.
So the Regional State of Housing Event Planning Committee continues to make progress in planning the inaugural Regional State of Housing event anticipated for early 2027. We have tentatively identified April 9th, 2027 as the event date with the Kansas City Convention Center. Shout out to Ms. Raina Parkshaw, Mayor Pro Tem, for making that connection. Once the date and the location are confirmed, the committee will move forward with, we'll move into full planning mode, including program development, registration, sponsorships, and communication. The current vision for this event is a half-day regional convening featuring speakers, data, and discussions focus on housing trends, challenges, and opportunities across the Kansas City region. Following the convening, attendees will have the option to participate in afternoon site visits, highlighting innovative housing developments and community initiatives across the region. Currently, our group meets after each coordinating council meeting. We are open to additional folks joining if this sounds like something folks are interested in. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
All right. Good update. This is exciting. I'm glad that we're working on this early for this big event. Do we have any questions for Rachel about our big event coming up next April? All right. Thank
I've
you.
got a,
Oh yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
I've got a quick question, and I'm just sort of curious because what you just described, Rachel, sounds really great, and I'm sort of just curious, the state of housing in the Kansas City area event. Um, will that be done in partnership with some of the housing narrative lab work that's happening at the same time? Um, I'm, you guys have been doing the work. I say you guys, I'm thinking of, Rachel, you and the rest of the committee, but also, the backbone members of MARC and LISC who are here, trying to create this regional brain, this eye that can really understand what the state of housing is in the area, in, the Kansas City area and communicate that out. And I'm sort of just curious, as you have been trying to do that, I guess this is a really general question, so it may not be terribly interesting to answer, but um, what kinds of things or challenges are you looking at as you try to, answer that question? Like, what is the state of housing in the Kansas City area, Jackson County, Johnson County, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and you're absolutely right. So, while this big event is quite a lift, we are planning to use exactly the things that this group is working on. So when you talk about the Housing Narrative Lab, the plan is for that to hopefully be able to launch at that event and be collectively something the 9 regions together. This is how we're talking about housing and the spectrum, the ecosystem moving forward. But also, this is an opportunity to spotlight specific places in the county. So when I talked about those site visits, it is workforce development in Eastern Jackson County. We're looking at very similar to what Brennan and Fran are doing around modular homes, like actually getting folks where they can see modular homes or portfolio homes in Overland Park, see what these finished products look like, because I think there are a lot of stigmas and a lot of what people think these things look like. And then the workshops are really going, our hope is that we will come back to this group when we get to the programming piece for each of those subcommittees that we have, talking about something, finding a subject within those committees, because you all are the experts to talk about with folks. And so, you know, even Brennan's announcement today was something that, like, hey, that would be a really great thing to talk about at the summit, or this convening, as an opportunity for other folks to become aware, but also consider this in the future. So yeah, the goal is that we're not reinventing the wheel, but that we are bringing together folks across the region to do those exact things. So.
Got it. Thank you.
That's a good question, because in this subcommittee we have been talking about that, like Rachel said, so it's good to pull everyone together for the big summit. Excellent. Any more questions about that, about the summit coming up? Okay.
No, but Hannah, sorry.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Hannah did. No, I was just also going to say, I spoke about the housing narrative lab, but yes, the regional housing needs assessment piece is also a big piece for that conversation as well.
It's gonna be great.
Jill, I have a quick question. I don't know if you know this yet, but do you guys expect on doing a kind of like call for sessions or anything? Or are you planning on organizing all of the workshops, and yeah, are you planning on like targeting some of the topics, or a mix? Or
yeah, so we talked about so I think that's a question we'll have to continue to play with. We talked about being really specific to the goals and the objectives of RHP and those topics being that way, but I also guess like we could still do a call for proposals, but be like, this is what we want to cover. But yeah, of course everyone in the group hears, but yeah, that's something we can continue to talk about as well, to make sure that we are getting a diverse group of voices and not just those who are directly related to RHP. Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. All right. Thank you, Rachel, for the update. We will move on to Ashley Irvin for the RHP Workforce Action and Impact Work Group. She's not here. So Carly, could you go ahead and give us an update on how the Workforce Action and Impact Work Group is going?
Sure. Ashley wasn't able to attend the meeting today, so I'll just give a quick update. The Workforce Action and Impact Group is the only work group that is currently active. Right now, we're going to be looking at convening those other groups directly through the Housing Narrative Lab, is where we're sort of doing the community voice work. And then we've been using existing spaces like the Planners Roundtable for the Policy and Innovation Group for the time being. So the Workforce Group has been meeting. They hosted the Workforce Forum back in May. And essentially at their meeting, I think it was on the 25th of June, the discussion was about how one of the outcomes, or one of the things that rose to the top from the forum, was that there isn't as much of a focus on residential construction apprenticeships. We have apprenticeships that will direct folks in those workforce training centers into commercial construction, but not as much into residential construction. So the next project that they want to work on as a group is looking for an entity or an organization that might be willing to host an apprenticeship specifically for residential construction. That potentially the Homeowners Association or maybe another group, but looking for an opportunity to be able to focus on apprenticeships for residential construction so that we can continue to grow that pipeline and in turn grow production and preservation.
All right, that is really interesting. That's really interesting information. Yeah, and I like that we're thinking about it and how we can to fill that gap. So that's good stuff. And this ends our information portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to discussion and reflection. And Raina, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Holly. I appreciate it. I like this new format. It's very informational. So I would just encourage us as we move forward in future meetings to ask questions too. If you guys need clarification, I know it's a little difficult with us being online, but we just encourage you all to, just be engaged in that piece as well. But before we jump into this next part of discussion and the presentation, I want to take a moment to frame why the conversation is so important. So over the last several years, we've made meaningful progress across the region. We've built new partnerships, we've increased investments, we've launched new programs and expanded the number of organizations that are working on housing. Yet despite all of that great work, the challenges still remain larger than any one organization or one city or one funding source can solve alone. And that's exactly why the Regional Housing Partnership exists and why it's so important. So today isn't about learning, just another framework. It's really about challenging ourselves to think differently about how we can create lasting change together. The collective impact has been a portion that I know I've engaged in it and have seen it be successful as it pertains to public safety, and really have seen significant improvements. Like for example, and with the work that we're doing in public safety in Kansas City, we are now seeing an 8-year low in our violence, and we have seen reductions across 5 different areas of crime in Kansas City, and it is really because of the collective impact that we are all creating together. So collective impact asks us to move beyond simply coordinating our efforts. It asks us to align around a shared vision, shared priorities, shared measures of success, and shared accountability. Now, to do that, that requires trust. It requires us to think regionally instead of organizationally. And it sometimes requires us to be willing to put the success of the mission ahead of the success of our individual organizations. So as a coordinating council, I believe that this conversation is foundational to everything that we hope to accomplish. If we don't have a shared understanding of how we are going to work together, it becomes much harder for us to achieve the accomplishments and the outcomes that we are wanting to create. So as Carly walks us through the approach, I want to encourage all of us to think beyond our organization's roles. So ask yourself, how could this change the way that I lead personally? How could this change the way that our organization partners with others? And what would it look like if our entire region truly operated this way? And with that, I will turn it over to Carly.
Thank you so much. I didn't know I was getting such a great introduction. So I appreciate that. I am going to share my screen. If I can, hold on, that's not right. There we go. Oh, sorry, I didn't push the button. I am just not, there we go. Share, okay. Got it. All right. Thank you for that again, Raina. And another difference that you'll notice in our meetings going forward is that we want to share with you what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so we'll be adding to our meeting agendas our purpose and what our results we hope to have from having a particular section of the agenda. And so we want to explore RHP's collective impact approach and how it differs from other collaborative efforts, and how it can promote long-term systems-wide change. And hopefully, at the end of this, the Coordinating Council will reach a shared understanding of the importance and utility of this approach in promoting the region-wide systems region-wide systems change. And we want to be able to identify ways to successfully apply and engage with this approach And we'll do that more when we get to the discussion section of the agenda. So just a really quick review. The last meeting, we ended the meeting with a somewhat hurried review of the conditions of collective impact. And just for clarity and a shared understanding, the conditions for collective impact are a common agenda, shared measurement, mutually reinforcing activities, continuous communication, and a backbone for coordination and administration. And for those, I'm pretty sure that everyone is aware by now that the backbone for this initiative is MARC and LISC. We share those responsibilities, and Hannah and I are the main staff for that backbone. Last year I made a different slide about what does RHP do. And I had, some tiles on the slide that said that we connect and convene, we advocate and support, and we educate and promote. And I thought that that was really doing a good job of breaking down what RHP does and how it works. But I had the occasion for someone that has no concept of housing or nonprofits or anything ask me over the weekend what I do for a living. And I realized that I could not explain it to him in that way because he was not going to have any idea what I was talking about. And so the way that I explained it to him was to say that the Regional Housing Partnership exists to increase the capacity of organizations to produce and preserve more housing for the Kansas City region. And I didn't say this part because it wouldn't have made sense to him, but our approach for achieving that goal is through the collective impact framework. And this slide is really not only what we do, but also why we do it. Also over the weekend, Newsweek published an article that had an odd title, but the title was Map Shows Where Cities Closing Affordable Housing Gap Will Take Centuries. And it was a very surprising article that my executive director, Jeff Jolly, shared with me just the other day. And it was essentially outlining how long it would take a particular metro area region in the country to close their housing gap based on their current rate of production. I don't think anyone would be surprised based on, years of disinvestment, but also recent storms in the area to find that the St. Louis, Missouri area is at the top of that list. But it is a little scary to see that they essentially have half a millennia to be able to close their housing gap. However, the most surprising thing for me about that article was that the very next city and region on the list is Kansas City. And we are at more than 600 years at our current pace to be able to close our housing gap. And that is extremely daunting to know that if we continued at the pace where we are now, that we would take, a quarter of a millennia to be able to solve our housing issues. And so the Regional Housing Partnership exists to be able to support the organizations that are doing work to help close this gap. And do what we can to hopefully vastly reduce that 600 plus year rate. Just for edification, this is the rest of the list of other regions that have a centuries long gap as well. Some that are much, much larger than our region and some that are around the same size or smaller. I can share the link to this full article in the chat after if you all are interested, but I thought that was a very pertinent way to start this conversation to highlight the need for the Regional Housing Partnership. So when we talk about collective impact, I know it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but a lot of groups that work together and may refer to their efforts as collective impact are not actually necessarily using the framework, but it is just a term that they have attached to their work. But what we want to do is actually focus on the structured process for collaborative problem solving for complex social issues. And collective impact is not a new term. It has been around and was first written about in the Stanford Social Innovation Review in 2011. And then there was the origins even before that about the collective impact framework in an article from the Harvard's Kennedy School in 2004, applying the concept of adaptive leadership to the field of philanthropy. And we also know that for some involved in this group, you may have been involved in collective impact initiatives prior to this, and for others, it may be a fundamentally different way of working. And so we know that there are some mindset shifts that may need to take place in order to work in this way. And one of those is starting with who is in the space. This group was strategically selected for diverse perspectives and experiences to be able to co-create cross-sector results. And we'll continue to be strategic about who is added to this group when we have our conversation at the next meeting regarding membership. And this part is the part of collective impact that we haven't leaned into as much. It may be a little touchy-feely, but this is where we talk about how we work together. In this space, the relational is as important as the rational. We want to invest time in building strong relationships and trust that can enable strong collaboration. And to that end, the Backbone team will be taking some time over the next couple of months to reach out to each of the coordinating council members one-on-one, so that we can also invest in our relationships with you, as well as your relationships with the partnership. In how we work together, structure is as important as strategy. Focusing on programs and system strategies is where we want to put our attention. We can be tempted to focus only on tangible sets of activities, like the RHP goals and strategies, that we do believe will ensure progress towards our goals, but it's important to have a sense of how we will address the problem. Collective impact practitioners should recognize that the power of collective impact comes from enabling collective seeing, learning, and doing rather than following a linear path. And the final one is not an RHP issue at this time, but in the future, we want to remember that sharing credit is as important as taking credit. The goal is for individual organizations to think about how their decisions affect the collective context. In collective impact, progress looks different. We want to pay attention to being adaptive and not just focusing on technical solutions. Collective impact allows for adaptive problem solving by pushing multiple organizations to look for resources and innovative problem solving for common problems, and it enables a coordinated response. And this next part, this was an analogy that was included in an article that is about 10 years old. And I wasn't too happy with the connotation of guns in this particular analogy, of looking for silver buckshot rather than a silver bullet. So I decided to make a little adjustment. And instead, we're going to look for confetti rather than a party horn. Collective impact in this mindset shift means thinking about your work in a larger context, considering how our efforts fit into the larger puzzle of activities, and knowing that looking for confetti solutions does not minimize the importance of high quality individual programs, interventions, or policies. Rather, it emphasizes that each of these programs is necessary but not sufficient. Instead of isolating individual programs and trying to scale them up, collective impact works best when we focus on ways that strong individual interventions or policies fit together to reinforce each other. And the last mindset shift is about zooming out and focusing on the region rather than just our particular localities. We want to be able to achieve population level change. And that requires us to shift the search for a single cure-all solution and instead recognize that success comes from a combination of many interventions. And then finally, long-term versus short-term. In the original Goals and Strategies document for the Regional Housing Partnership, there was a sort of preamble that I think we may have not had as much in the forefront as we probably should. And it says the objective of the Regional Housing Partnership Strategy Committee during the goal setting process throughout 2024 was to develop overarching goals and strategic pathways to guide collective action around attainable housing in the Kansas City region over the next 15 to 20 years. And that is to say that the work we do today is not supposed to be an instant fix for our housing gap, but rather we're looking for ways to make impact over the next 2 decades. From the Newsweek article, we have a 600-year gap to put a dent in, and we know that that is not going to happen overnight. So the goal is for us to start looking at this in a much more long-term view. The backbone is here to support your work. My work at LISC is almost exclusively dedicated to the Regional Housing Partnership, as is Hannah's on the MARC side. We are here to hold the container around the RHP's vision, strategy, and support aligned activities, establish shared measurement, which we will get to, build public will for RHP, advance policies, and mobilize the funding that we have received and will receive in the future. As the backbone, we are conveners, we are communicators, and we are neutral facilitators. And this neutral facilitator role is something that you will see Hannah and I lean more into as we reach the 1-year mark for RHP and as we move forward. We want to create the space for you all to do the work for RHP. We're here to align and motivate and manage the network to act together. And we're here to provide tools and resources for the network to achieve its goals. As the backbone staff, the success of the RHP is not about what we build, but more about the capacity that we create for others to build together. I think someone earlier had referenced our goal areas. I think these should look somewhat familiar to you all by now. We have the area of network and process, which is where we're going to build upon the collaborative regional process that is already underway to hopefully strengthen the housing system. Again, towards the end of production and preservation, which is where we have that second goal area of production and supply. We have that 600-year deficit to fill, and we need more housing at more price points in more places. And then finally, access and stability. And this is where we will create opportunity for attainable housing for all that need it in the region. And then these are the tools that we are supporting in each of these goal areas. And then on this final one, the KCCLT, it has an asterisk by it because it was originally supported by the Regional Housing Partnership. We were a pass-through entity for funding. And we weren't involved in any of the oversight or operations, but I think it's important to include it because this is what it looks like for the RHP to support this kind of tool. And we know that the CLT is going through some transition right now, and we'll see where they evolve to. But it has spurred CLTs in other areas. So I know that Bill Wyco has also recently started a CLT. So we think that that particular seed, although it didn't grow the way we intended, we were able to see it sprout in other places. And this last part, again, is another reminder about where RHP does and does not focus. And the one thing that I want to highlight on this slide, and this is my last one, is to note that we have an influence on policymakers, but we actually want to expand what that means, because there may be opportunities for RHP to have influence in other areas, not just policy. There may be times when organizations outside of this core group will come to the RHP for advice. And that's what we want to happen. We want RHP to be seen as thought leaders in the housing space. We want to tap into all of your expertise on housing to be able to provide advice and influence to other groups that are working on housing. And so there may be times when we have outside presenters that are coming just to ask questions. And that's exactly what we're hoping that folks will do, is to look to the RHP to provide them guidance when it's time for them to start to implement their work. And now we'll move on to the next part, where we're going to do some reflection and discussion about collective impacts and how we do this work together. I will stop sharing.
So if I can just jump right in and just say, just transparently, that 630 years sounded very depressing, and almost made me feel like, why are we here? But I think, it's discouraging. But I think one of I think the most important thing for me to think about really is the fact that none of us will be here if we thought that that was our future. We're here because we want to change the status quo. And so I think, when I think about it from the perspective of us coming together and being able to align around our shared strategies, I'm excited about the fact that 600 years from now, those individuals will look and say, you know what? This time in 2026, 2027 is when things change, because this group of people, this coordinating council, got together and made these changes. And so I'm excited that we are working together, because I think we recognize none of us can solve it alone. We represent, the leaders in our region now, that from philanthropy to housing developers to policymakers to lenders to, all of the things. And that's a tremendous amount of influence. And the fact that we, you all are guiding us through this, and I'm talking about our backbone organizations, I think is going to be monumental. So, I had to just honestly reframe my mind, because I was sitting here like, oh my gosh, 630 years, that's horrible. How are we going to do this? But I do think that with us coming together with the collective impact model and truly working through that framework, I believe we can make a difference. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, it's encouraging that we're together. We're here. We've started the work. And I also like how Carly was talking about how, the RHP goals is, we're here for the next 15 to 20 years. Like, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. We know we're getting our work groups together. We're starting to get our data collected. So I feel like this is us setting the foundation. This is us knowing each other. This is us figuring out who's in the room, who needs to be here, whom we need to add, and how we are working together. So I think this is really encouraging that we are helping to set the foundation for the next 15 to 20 years. And by doing this, even though it is slow and sometimes arduous, we are helping to springboard that. Like, I think we'll see the progress of all the foundations that we're starting with the work group. And as soon as we get this foundation going and the region will see us as that resource, as the place to go. And I think that is really exciting. We're like the founding members of this regional housing thing about getting
Right.
the foundation, set, and the work group set, and our network, like the network that we have right now amongst ourselves, but also, who we need to add and who the voices we need to bring forward, and how do we make those connections, and how we do become that voice that people come to. So I think it's really exciting. But yeah, this first step is like baby steps, but it's important. It's important work, I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I just saw pop up through the chat, I think Theotis said something I was kind of thinking as well. But I think, if we think about, we have to ask ourselves, what will it take for us to cut that time in half, or what will it take for us to cut that time by 90%? And so, that's us continue to implement the collective impact framework, but then, bringing in those key individuals and organizations around the table to make sure that we can cut it in half or 90% or whatever those numbers are. But I think we can do that. And, I think so. So when I first started, I said, let's challenge ourselves to think about how will we need to act different? What are the things that I need to do as a leader in Kansas City to function differently? How can we be more collaborative? How can are there policies that we can put in place in Kansas City that will help to propel others, so that we all can continue to move forward? So I think at this point we'll talk about what does that look like, and I want to hear from you all as well. Any feedback or thoughts that you guys have around the information that Carly shared?
Yeah, thank you all for that input. I'm excited to see that this discussion is already headed in the right direction. So I am going to share my screen. So we really wanted to, like Carly said, this work is nothing without everyone in this, virtual room today. Like, we are here, Carly and I are here to support the work that you all are doing. We really want to be intentional. I hope you're seeing that about putting this back in your hands. And so I want to get us thinking about this, and starting this discussion. And in the interest of time, we were going to break out into individual breakout rooms for this. We're going to have this discussion just as a full group, because it's a little bit more straightforward, and then we'll break out for the next group of questions. But I'm just going to open it up to everyone. Some discussion around, I want to make sure we're all understanding collective impact, and if there are any lingering questions about it, or about really just focusing on kind of what it is and what it means for the RHP. We're going to focus on implementation and here in just a minute. So just so you know, that is coming. But we have a couple of questions just for you all to consider, and then I'll open it up, and just feel free to ask your questions, give your input. So first, what is your comfort level with this type of approach? Are you comfortable with, the idea of collective impact? Where are we at as a group for that? Secondly, what questions do you still have about what the RHP's approach is, or how it should be implemented? And then third, what challenges do you foresee with applying this approach across the RHP network? So we'll take about 8 minutes to talk about this, and then we'll move on. But I see that Stephen has raised his hand, so go ahead. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I will share these in the chat so that we can see each other better. Stephen, if you want to.
Yeah, just in terms of the comfort level of, the approach of the RHP, the approach of collective impact. I think it's very easy for me to say, yeah, I think it's great, and I do. I think there's a lot of value to it. At the same time, in my experience with a smaller collective impact group, the Jackson County Public Health's IncoLab that they've been convening over the last couple of years, that's been my only other experience with anything like this. And what I've experienced is that, and this is also true for if anybody has been like on a volunteer site, like a build site or something like that. Of course, I'm, Habitat guy, so that's a lens that I put it through. Having people come together, like as a volunteer leader, the worst thing that can happen is if you bring volunteers together and they're motivated and they're excited, and there's nobody who can say, okay, here's what we need from you in order to, produce, in order to be successful. And so, having a group of people all looking at each other and thinking, okay, well, what is it that we can do that can kind of stop progress, that can make it feel as if progress is not being made. So there, in my experience and in my opinion, is a balance to be struck between the idea of this being a very open, very, meeting of peers. And, for instance, you had mentioned in your piece, Carly, that the idea will be to be neutral conveners. At the same time, I think that there is value for there being somebody to say, okay, here's a little bit of what we need from the members here in order to keep engagement up, in order to keep progress moving forward, and in order to activate whatever network does continue to exist through these calls. What that looks like specifically is hard for me to say, but as I think about my experience with that other group, you know, a, the lack of, you know, uh, a person or a group to be able to communicate exactly what's needed or expected can present a challenge. And then people might stop coming. That's been a challenge for that other group as well.
Yeah, I would just echo what Stephen's saying. I think your experience in Jackson County is very similar to what I saw in Wyandotte County when I led the CHIP housing work. There was a lot of momentum. Like I served as the backbone, but what that also meant was that I knew what everybody else was doing. And while folks were doing things and I knew what was happening, when I stepped away from that role, it then started to crumble because folks didn't know where their responsibility lays. And I say crumble in like a very gentle way. I don't mean that like intentional harm, but I think to your point, Stephen, is folks really having that ownership and understanding what is expected of them, whether it's, hey, I need you to fill out this report every month, or I need you to do this. I think having those intentional touch points is really important moving forward. Since I'm already talking, I will kind of go to your second question that asks about like, what are your questions or what are your concerns? I think where I land is who, and I know we spent so much time on the membership council, on the coordinating council description and those types of things, but who is keeping people accountable for showing up to meetings? We were intentional about who we brought into this space and those types of things. And I think my frustration is like, yes, life happens, other work things come up, but this council cannot be representative of all of the voices and all of the stakeholders that we try to bring forward if people aren't showing up. And so I think there's accountability there. But then I also want to say that I feel as though there is a heavy Jackson County, Johnson County, and Wyandotte County presence in this group. But when we talk about the region, are we talking about 6 counties or are we talking about 9 counties? And then do we have, and I hate to like point Allen out, but like that's the only in the Clay, Platte, and Gladstone, I think is in Clay. Like he's the only representative from here, but other communities are overrepresented, and that's fine. But like when we talk about region, do we have the representation? So I think for me, the membership conversation and the accountability, as well as making sure if this is how we want the entire region to move collectively, which is the collective impact, that means that however we're defining region also means that folks have to be represented. We want diverse housing professionals in this space, but we also have to lean on, is it representative of the entire region?
Yeah. I think that'll be a great conversation for September when we talk about the nominating committee and membership. I think that'll be a great deep dive that we'll do next meeting. So yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Rachel. That's good.
Anyone else have any thoughts they want to share before we move into the next?
I can jump in just real quick. The comfort level, I think is great. I mean, this is obviously we're seeing the numbers, something we absolutely need. I love all the different groups in the room. So, and Carly and team putting this together. I say focus areas. I would say, or as far as questions we still have, like it would be nice to see, hey, like move having some goals. I'm goal driven. So if you tell me go get 5 things, I'm gonna go get 6. And so if you provide maybe some small wins, some small goals to continue to keep the needle moving so we can continue to feel engaged and we see progress, I think that'll be awesome. And that just kind of gets people motivated and bring others along to kind of fill gaps. And again, I'll just say challenges I foresee is, exactly what the other two folks said, but adding on maybe some clear, specific objectives, exactly what you want from us so we can go figure that out or bring those people in. And then also maybe listing some timelines, what we want to see, and where, who's going to be responsible to get that completed by that time frame. I think that would be great. And also, I was just saying from a challenge, if we can have maybe a concentrated effort in a small area, like if it's Clay County or Johnson County or Clay County or Wyandotte County, or say, hey, we want to activate this space and move the needle in certain areas to see, hey, this is where growth is happening. It sounds like Bill Wyco is doing some exciting things. So do we pour resources in that area to say, hey, how do we this is a concept that's working. Let's pour gasoline on that to see success, and then maybe we can get other engagement in other areas. But that's my only comments. I think it's great. I think we need to continue to do this. It's a matter of how do we grow from here.
Great. Well, I think that is a perfect way. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just really quick. I just wanted to say that if anyone is interested, there's another engagement space in the Workforce Action and Impact Group. If anyone is from this group is interested in joining that work group, there's cross-pollination. There's no reason, anything that would prohibit you from participating in that. So if you would like to participate in that group, there's always the opportunity for that, as well as the subcommittees. Heard 100% about specific activities for engagement, specific assignments. We will certainly work on that. But I think there's also those other opportunities for engagement and additional work if you're interested in that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move us forward again, just in the interest of time, and I really want you guys to have time to focus on this next part. So now we're going to focus on implementation. I will share my screen quickly and then talk about how we're going to move forward. So focusing on how do we do this? Exactly, Theodis, what you were saying. How do we have demonstrable impact in the goals of the RHP, those broader goals, but then also our smaller goals that we need to create. I think, Rachel, I saw briefly you put something about that in the chat, or somebody did, about the overall goals are great, but they're hard, they're big, lofty goals. So we're going to have some steps in between. So I want us to start thinking about, and we're going to break into small groups. I'm going to put you guys in breakout rooms here in just a minute so you guys can all have more opportunity to speak and think about this together. So I want us to think about, on one hand, what can we as a coordinating council, beyond maybe using those subcommittees that we've created, the action plan and the annual convening, but just as a coordinating council, how can we all take ownership of this, and what could this look like at the coordinating council level? I don't want to say too much because I want you guys to think about that and take that as you will. What can we as coordinating council members do to promote or implement this work? What does our role look like in this? And then thinking about the broader RHP network. How is your organization ready to participate in collective impact work? And how are other organizations? What is your perception of the other organizations that are not represented here, but are integral parts of that broader network? Do we think that they're ready for this collective impact work? So I am going to go ahead and move us into breakout rooms. You're going to have about 8 to 10 minutes in those rooms. This is a lot to talk about, so please use that time to the fullest extent that you can. And then I will give you a notice when there's 1 minute left, and we'll come back together and talk some more.
Okay, so Brennan, you made me remember something that I think was key because it's aligned with what you said. We also talked about the capacity of our backbone team and whether or not, they have the capacity to do everything that we need. And so, just not saying there's a gap, that we've seen a gap, but just concerned, wanting to make sure that you guys have all the support and resources you guys need to be able to uplift the work that we're doing. Thanks.
Our last group.
Stephen, I'm actually going to tag you if you don't mind to share a little bit from our group.
Sure, happy to. We talked about there is generally a lot of value just in terms, and I'm actually, as a brief aside, really happy that there was this sort of second half of the meeting where there's more discussion, because we think that there's real value in just, we talk about coordinating council meeting, just getting people together from across the region to talk about what's happening is great, because already on this call, I've learned things that I've got like 3 emails started on my screen here because I'm like, oh, I got to follow up with that person. I got to learn more about that. What about this other thing, right? So that's just one thing. There's real value in that, and in this being a place where that kind of information and relationships can exist. We had also talked about, are our organizations prepared to, embark on this collective impact model? I mean, I think that the proof is in the pudding insofar that we're here. That's a good start, a good thing to know also. And one idea that we had, we also recognize that even though the regional housing partnership has existed in some form for, some time, it still feels as if it's gelling, it's still feeling as if we're trying to figure out exactly what the rhythm is and what that is. And, we talked about maybe convening a more informal, session. We also talked about maybe different organizations, how organizations can support this group is by inviting RHP members to their organization, almost like field trips, just to demonstrate what it is that we do, each one of us, and how we work and the challenges that we encounter. And then lastly, there's an idea that if we were looking for a way of gelling this group together and we could set up a volunteer day. I mean, there are so many organizations on this call and in the community that are volunteer led to build or repair homes. That could be an idea of, actually getting people together outside, not in a room, probably outside, but maybe in a room, depending on, what the houses are like. I've had too much coffee, so that'll be my piece.
Well, let's keep this idea rolling. Our next activity, I wanted to just do an exercise of us all coming together and talking about what the coordinating council, identifying ways, some specific tangible ways that we've had a lot of really good ideas brought up, but that maybe the coordinating council, of course, with the support from the backbone, as always, but that we can commit to demonstrating this collective impact model and kind of furthering it over the next 6 or so months. So, we've heard a lot of good ideas around the field trips, around volunteer days, the messaging guide. What do you guys think? We want to have actionable things that we can follow up on. I would love to find 2 to 4 things that we can work on as a coordinating council. Like we said, we're new, and demonstrating our impact out the gate is going to be really important. What do you all think?
And I went ahead and added to the chat just some of the things that we've already discussed. Yeah. The field trips, site visits, but also if it's not possible for a physical visit, perhaps allowing space in the coordinating council meeting for particular organizations to do a deeper dive about their work in order to share more information. As Stephen mentioned, a great opportunity for us to build relationships and serve the community as a volunteer day. And then just basically, until we have more marketing tools, which will come about once we complete our branding update. But the RHP newsletter that is sent out quarterly, if you can share that with your broader network, to start to share the information and updates that the RHP has and start to familiarize folks outside of this group with the work that is happening.
Are there any you all want to commit to diving in deeper to? So maybe we can talk about it at the next meeting. If we pick a couple today, we can do a deeper dive. Which ones are standing out?
Yeah, I like say hello to Leilani, sorry. I really like what Carly mentioned about the in-person opportunities and virtual opportunities based on organizational capacity, or maybe someone doesn't have anything for you to come see, but there's collective work. Like I think I've mentioned, like, oh, we could have Christina come and talk about housing legislative policy. Like, there's nothing to show, but talking about the strategy and all of that and how that kind of works. Whereas Brennan, he already hosted a tour. So if you ever want to, he has like these community tours where he has bankers and all these other people who just come and view all the variety of options that Build Wyco has, where he has something in person to show people. So I'm elevating those options for coordinating council members to do that. But then I also just wanted to clarify for when we were talking about the newsletter, or multiple people I've talked to about this, is like a blurb that we all can put, like maybe once a quarter about RHP and the work, or something in our own newsletters. Of course, we will continue to share the RHP newsletter, but just thinking about those types of blurbs or work or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of even think about how in my organization, I sit on the MARC board, and so I do a MARC update to my council about what's going on at MARC, and I kind of feel like maybe that's something that we should be doing in our organizations. Like, hey, the Regional Housing Partnership Coordinating Council met, and this is what the work is that we're doing. Share information that we see from the newsletter that we see the other communities are doing is kind of a cool idea to report back to our organizations, as well as what we hear about when we come to these meetings and hear all the great work happening with that throughout the region.
I don't know if this is going to resonate with the group, but for me, like the idea of doing as much relationship building as like social in person, when possible. I feel like the distinction between collective work that is successful and collective work that is not is like I am looking to be able to text the people that are in this group to communicate in real time, right? Like to have the kind of relationships with colleagues across the region that I can shoot them a text and be like, hey, there's this opportunity that's come up. What do you think about this? Or can I introduce you to this person? Or those, like, I think that can be kind of the most powerful outcome. I think all the metrics and the working group and all that kind of stuff is super important. But like the way that we have had any success moving things forward here in Wyandotte County is by developing like a depth of relationships with our elected officials, with our philanthropic partners, et cetera, that like we're on that kind of a basis of relationship. So my hope is that we can, like, my hope is that some of that comes out of this work in this group.
And if I can just ask a question, a lot of, seconded, thirded, I think a lot of hands are going up there, but in terms of how we organize ourselves and what metrics we choose, in April, there's going to be a state of housing event. There's the housing narrative lab that's going on. And Chris had mentioned working on the regional housing needs assessment. It seems like a lot of things are already in progress to give us information that might then allow us to identify specific goals. But it also seems to me like any goals there's real value in looking at, the whole region, but that also makes it really difficult to identify specifically what needs to happen, right? Because the housing needs in one community will look different than the housing needs of another. So the challenge is there. So I'm just wondering if part of the work between now and April could be, for this group to, I don't know, support, digest, analyze the work of the subgroups, the work of the backbone members, to understand what, the housing needs assessment says. Um, that's kind of where my mind goes. So in terms of like identifying specific metrics, it may be difficult now, but maybe we hold ourselves accountable to the work that's already happening and then, you know, develop goals based around that.
I also think that thank you for that, Stephen. I think that the action plan work or a subcommittee is also taking a deeper look at being able to correlate the goals and strategies that are already set for the RHP to particular network things that are happening across the network. So looking at who may already be doing work in the area of network and process, who is already doing work in production and supply. That way we can quantify where there are gaps, where there may be additional space for coordinating council organizations or organizations that are not a part of RHP at all right now to come into the space. And so we'll be looking at that. And I think one of the issues that we'll have is that, we'll be meeting on a bi-monthly basis following the coordinating council meeting. So it's going to take us a little while to start to do that analysis. But between that and the housing needs assessment, which will take a county by county view as well, instead of it will be broader as well as broken down by county, then we'll have the opportunity to look at what is happening in individual spaces across the region, and where there may be gaps that we can, look for ways to fill if possible, or if there's other folks that we need to bring into the space that can help fill those gaps.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody. There are just so many great ideas here. I actually am not even really sure what to do next. So we're going to have so many things percolating in my brain. And so what we're going to do, the Backbone team is going to probably watch this recording a couple of times, and we're going to try to consolidate all of these ideas. And we're going to follow up with you all over email, but then also in our next meeting to start to solidify some of these ideas and come up with tangible and accomplishable ways, right? We can't do everything right now, but ways that we can continue to engage in this work and you all take an even more active role. We were going to do a nice little self-reflection. I have a form that I created. Really, honestly, I just want to gather your guys' thoughts and some folks who maybe didn't have time to share. I'm going to throw that in the chat. I will also follow up with it directly after this meeting in an email. If you guys could take just a few minutes, share what you want to share, answer what questions you want to answer, anything that's like, I didn't get a beat. We weren't all in all of the meeting or all of the breakout sessions. So anything you want to share back to the Backbone team to consider, that would be fantastic. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Raina to wrap us up and close our meeting.
If I can, before we, can I jump in just for a moment?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, I just wanted to say that sharing that, regardless of the math that they used to get there, sharing the 600 years statistic, I hopefully was not as daunting to know that there is work to be done. There's a reason that we are here in this space. And in community development work, I was taught that we will plant trees for the shade that we will never sit under. And so the work that we do now is planting those trees. And in 100 years, there will be other folks that get to reap those benefits. So, there's plenty of work to be done. And I don't plan to be here for 600 years, but we'll do what we can right now.
Right. Well, the truth is that the housing challenges that our region faces didn't develop overnight, and they won't be solved by any single organization overnight. And so The truth is, when we align ourselves with our expertise, our resources, and the relationships, then we know that we can make significant change. And I think what I saw pop up on my screen from the chat is the number one task is to go ahead and plan some sort of a happy hour for us, because I believe it's the relationships that'll get us where we need to go. So I want to thank everybody for your thoughtful participation on that, because we are not just participating in the work, we're actually shaping the culture of our partnership. And so those relationships are going to be key. So with that, just to close us out, and Carly and Hannah jump in if I miss something. We've got the upcoming meeting, annual convening planning meeting is going to happen right after this. So those of you who want to stay, just go ahead and stay on the Zoom, and they will have that discussion. The action plan subcommittee, have you all set your next meeting date?
Yes, it'll be after the next coordinating council meeting in September.
In September,
Immediately
okay.
following that, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then our next coordinating council meeting is September the 10th, 9:30 to 11:30, and we'll be at Mark's new offices at 801 Pennsylvania. And I don't know if I guess additional information will be sent out prior to the meeting. But thank you all for all the conversation today. I wasn't sure how this Zoom meeting would work, but I think Hannah and Carly did a great job putting it together. And thank you all for engaging. And I think that's it.
Wait, I wanted to say something really quick. I really appreciate all the engagement that we had today. I think this was a really great meeting. I like the new format. If you guys want to do some feedback of how we did information, backbone updates, work group updates, and then discussion. And also, Amber, I see you. I see you joined us. Thank you. Good to see your face. All right. Thank you, everyone. See you at the next work group or this meeting. Yay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.